Rip and tear!
I can never rule as king, so long as you are the only one they fear.
Yeah! Hell yeah. Howdy folks, got another Bladeslinger vlog for you. So I just finished playing Doom the Dark Ages, the latest entry in the famous first-person shooter franchise, and one that people have had some pretty mixed opinions about, despite you know, an overall positive reception from mainstream gaming outlets. Just to get it out of the way, I definitely enjoyed Doom the Dark Ages. I thought this was a really fun FPS game. It was frenetic, it was fast, it was fun, it was explosive, it was violent. It was everything I wanted out of it and more. I do have some issues with it, but overall I thought it was pretty good. I can definitely see why people do take issue with certain aspects of it, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, what is this game about? Well, it is a follow-up to Doom Eternal, but it's actually a prequel. It takes place long before those games do, and it centers around the Doomslayer battling the forces of hell in some kind of futuristic medieval setting or something along those lines, assisting a human faction called the Sentinels in their ongoing war with the demons on behalf of a group of aliens called the Makers. And okay, I'm just gonna stop with this plot synopsis. I gotta be completely honest, I did not give two shits about this story, and that is one of the first things I want to criticize about Doom the Dark Ages. One of the things I really liked about the recent Doom games is their approach to storytelling. They use what I call a prime style storytelling, in that there is a lot of lore and world building and story in the game, but whether or not you actually want to dig into it is completely up to you. So throughout Doom 4, I refuse to call it Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal, you'll find audio and written logs that would flesh out the world that the game takes place in. And if you wanted to dig into that stuff, it was there, but if you really just wanted to rip and tear until it was done, you could do that too, and it would still work because the characterization of the Doomslayer was still so strong. And that's something that, unfortunately, Doom the Dark Ages breaks with. This game instead tries to tell its story in a more traditional manner with cutscenes and dialogue and stuff like that. And it definitely wasn't for the best because after a few hours of it, I was basically just skipping through the cutscenes. Like, I did not care what was happening in this game. All that mattered to me was I was the Doomslayer, hell was causing a ruckus, and I was going to rip and tear until it was done. And you know what? I really do not feel like I missed much of the story here. I never got into the lore with the last two Doom games, so yeah, it is kind of lame that you know, they had to resort to that. But what made the plots of the previous Doom game so much fun was the character of the Doomslayer. He was just such a gloriously brutal and violent character, and that definitely carries over here. And I really like how they frame the Doomslayer here. He's like a combination of a Captain America, Doom guy, and Conan the Barbarian. It's actually a lot of fun. I also had mixed opinions on the overall aesthetic of the game. I actually do dig sort of this futuristic, gothic, medieval style that they're going for here. Just that combination of rustic technology, the futuristic weapons, and all that stuff. And of course, the Force of Hell. It did look really good at times. Other times the game was just really drab and ugly to look at. And I think back to Doom Eternal and Doom 4 with all the cool settings and locales they have. A lot of the locales in this game tend to blur together, and it also doesn't help that it's hindered by some pretty bland level design as well. Uh, like all the crazy architecture and level layouts of the previous games have sort of fallen away in favor of just like these big open areas where that feel more like something you would find in a serious Sam game as opposed to Doom the Dark Ages. A lot of people are saying that it's more Quake than it is Doom, but I don't necessarily agree with that, and really Quake is more Doom than it is anything, at least gameplay wise. So yeah, the aesthetic just wasn't always there for me. The music was forgettable. It was perfectly serviceable for the experience. Like, it fit the tone and style of the game like a glove. But I can't really remember any tunes for the game either. I definitely would say that the game is graphically inferior to the last two games. Then again, that is a pretty high bar to clear, so they definitely tried, but I don't think they really succeed here. But the most important thing in a Doom game for me is the gameplay, and Doom the Dark Ages actually does make some pretty big changes to the overall formula. For the first time, they've actually broken with the tried and true Doom arsenal. So while you still do have a few of the old chestnuts like the shotgun, super shotgun, missile launcher, and stuff like that, you have a couple different weapons in place of stuff like the chain gun. They also have the plasma gun, as well as some new weapons that are sort of fitting to the setting. And that does lead to sort of the first issue I have with how the gameplay is in this. Like, the tight balance between all the weapons there, it's not quite as strong as it is in previous games. I found myself leaning on the shotgun quite a bit in this game, especially when I got the super shotgun. The nail gun, I think it was called, the machine gun that you have in the game, and missile launcher and plasma gun. But other weapons, like, I barely used at all. I really only used the plasma gun if there were enemies with the shields that they're effective against, or something like the grinder, which, despite being a mel as hell weapon, like, just seeing the skull that's in it be grinded down to bits and fired at enemies is really cool looking. I didn't find it to be that necessary a weapon, especially considering how effective the shotguns are. And the chain gun, I had no idea how to use that thing, honestly. You do have some other melee weapons at your disposal, but they basically serve the same purpose as all the secondary weapons they had in Doom Eternal, so I don't really think a lot has been added to them as far as gameplay goes. The big game changer here is definitely the inclusion of shield. Essentially, at any time, you can raise the shield, and anything that's coming from the front will do no damage, though you can't keep it up forever. If it takes too much damage, it will crap out on you, and then it'll have to cool down before you can use it again. But if you push the button as a certain projectiles are about to make contact, you'll actually parry an attack, and you'll either open an enemy up to a counterattack, or it will send projectile attacks right back at them. It definitely does change up the rules of the Doom gameplay quite a bit, because usually in a Doom game, you're trying to avoid taking a tremendous amount of damage as opposed to, actively seeking it out. But in this game, you sort of have to wade into the oncoming fire a lot of the time. And certain enemy types in the game, you have no choice but to get in close and fight them off. A lot of later enemy types, if you try to fight them at a distance, they'll actually have shields that they won't drop unless you get in close, which will require you to use that shield and the parry quite a bit in order to take them out. And this is all while they're throwing a bunch of other enemy types at you as well. But thankfully, it never gets as bad as a Doom Eternal in regards to the enemy types that were designed to be fought one-on-one as opposed to in this great big crowd. Uh, Usually when you're fighting enemies like that, there's tons of smaller fry enemies that you can use to replenish your ammo, health, and stuff like that. Uh, it definitely is a different gameplay loop, but it is still Doom as I've always known and loved it. It is still about the speed. It's about knowing what weapons to use in what situation, prioritizing the different enemy types and stuff like that. It does prioritize movement a lot less than previous games. Doom Guy is notably slower here, and he can't jump as high, I think. It's a lot harder for him to bolt off certain surfaces, too. And as I said, the level design in this game definitely favors more wide open spaces as opposed to, the intricate level design of the last two games. And part of me can't help but feel if they decided to go with the shield and parry system to, avoid having to do the complex level design. And if that's the case, that's not really a good thing. I can't prove that that is the case. I mean, this is id Software. They typically don't half-ass stuff, but, just the fact that I'm considering that they might have done that isn't really a good thing. What else? The difficulty. This actually has a very robust difficulty system as well. You have all the different levels, but they can also be tweaked individually too. The parry system, for instance, you actually have a slider for how much of a window you want for it. So if you want to play on super difficult but don't want to deal with a tight parry mechanic, you can do that, and that's just fine. It's not too hard, it's not too easy, it's just you have enough options to tailor it to the way you want. However, there are still some sections of the game that can get a little dull. The big ones that come to mind for me are the mechs levels, which mostly just see you either punching the same enemies again and again, or blasting them with a super effective weapon. I mean, it's pure power fantasy, but not in the good way that Doom typically is. The parts where you're flying around on the dragon are also kind of bland too. Just really simple combat for those missions. What would have been cool is if those sections were just straight up Panzer Dragoon. That would have been awesome. Content-wise, it took me about maybe 15 hours to get through the game. There are 22 missions total. Each one would probably take you between half hour to maybe 45 minutes. I think there's a good deal of length here, but I don't know if this game necessarily justifies $70. And that is something we are really going to ask ourselves. How much value is acceptable this day and age now that the video game prices are going up? I mean, the Nintendo Switch 2 is right around the corner, so Microsoft has just announced they're hiking up their prices too. Yeah, thanks a lot, Rump. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is enough replay value here for really hardcore Doom fans, but for everyone else, I would probably recommend waiting on the price to drop. I have a feeling that by the end of the year, this game is probably going to drop to like $20 or $30 for a physical disc. Assuming nothing happens to get rid of physical media, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. Especially now that prices are rising, players aren't going to be happy with digital only if the price isn't going to drop. Yeah, I would wait for a sale on Steam if you want to play this on PC, but yeah, for the most part, while I do have quite a bit of issues with Doom the Dark Age, and I feel like I've been mostly critical for this video, I did still have a lot of fun playing it. But if I had to recommend a Doom game, I would still probably recommend Doom 4 for a modern audience. And then after that, Doom Eternal, and then probably the original Series 2. Then Oh, now that's a good question. Do I like this more than Doom 3? This definitely is ranking towards the bottom of Doom games, but that's not. Do not take that as a negative comment because, I'd much rather play the worst of Doom over the best of Call of Duty or Battlefield. So make of that what you will. Doom: The Dark Ages, highly recommended, especially if you're a fan of first-person shooters. More Doom will come to follow, but it's going to be a while before we look at this one. So if any of this interests you, just get out there, get yourself a copy or wait for a price drop, and then rip and tear until it is done. See you guys next time.